We are live back with another edition of Your Wildest Fantasy Football Show, our Week 15 Start Sits episode. We will be here until 12:30.
12:30.
And Start Sits has not gotten any easier to say. Our Start Sit show. It's very close to being something bad.
Our start sits. Very important.
Cody, how are you feeling? Week 15 playoffs for a lot of people out there. Excited?
It's always a bittersweet part of the season around now, because fantasy football is dying down. Real football is kind of coming to an end here. We only have a couple weeks left of like full weeks of football until we hit playoffs, and then the teams just start dwindling down real quick. So it's a bittersweet part of the year. It's tough.
Yeah.
How do you feel? How do you feel about this time?
I mean, it's a pretty sweet part of the year. Most of my teams, been lucky enough to have pretty good years. Excited for the playoffs to get on their way. Have some buys in some leagues, and yeah, I mean, I'm feeling really good, especially after last night. I don't know if anybody can tell. I grabbed at the wrong breast. I'm a Colts fan. So
you are.
I don't know if I want to break the news on the show, but like the Colts might be the best team in football.
I'll break it for you. They're not the best team in football.
Clearly, I mean, that's what the haters would say. And everyone who knows anything about coaching, block out the noise. Block out all of the bad vibes, the negative energies, the rat poison, as Nick Saban likes to call it. And just kind of stay focused on your goal, which for us is getting 1% better every day. And 1% on top of 1% every single day is eventually going to add up to 100% better. And when you're already maybe the best team in football, that's pretty good.
I mean, I'll break the news for people who don't know. Indy is not the best team in football. You can't be considered the best team in football when you only have 2 more wins than you do losses. That doesn't make you a great football team. It makes you slightly above average by default because you're barely having more wins than you do. They're actually dead even at home. They have 4 wins, 4 losses at home, which the best football team would, probably be like maybe 4-0, 5-1 potentially, something along those lines. 6-0. I mean, Green Bay potentially, since they're 10-3, more wins, less losses, undefeated at home.
I think you're thinking too much by the numbers, but when we look at just the team, you watch these guys on Hard Knocks. Have you seen Hard Knocks, Cody?
Hard Knocks?
Yes. Well, not necessarily as literal as that, but it's a TV show. And you watch these guys, just a great group of men. And I just feel like this team's got something special going on right now. We're heating up, right time, end of the year, making our push. Grinding out the end of the season. And that kind of brings us to our next point. Urban Meyer got fired in Jacksonville.
He did.
That news broke when? Like Wednesday, I want to say.
I believe it's like Wednesday or Thursday, yeah.
Thursday. Fantasy-wise, I feel like this is awesome for James Robinson. Carlos Hyde also expected to be out today. I think he was already ruled out. So kind of sets up as a huge redemption, hopefully, for James Robinson. He would be kind of near the top of my rankings against Houston today, of all teams out as well. We know that that's a very attractive matchup. And, I mean, it should be a game that the Jags are like somewhat in, which does not happen very often. So being able to not fight against the game script, like, I suppose because Jacksonville is always trailing or often trailing. This game, they might actually have a lead or have it be tied at one point in the game besides when it starts. So I think that this sets up as like a potentially huge James Robinson game.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure how I feel about it. I mean, Texans defense has been minimal this year. But I'm expecting good things from James Robinson. I do think that I think Brandon Cooks is going to have a great game for Houston, but I think their lack of running backs that are explosive really dampers them. The fact they have a third string rookie starting for them has his moments, but he's not, not the quarterback that you run a ride or die with. So yeah, I'm with you. I mean, James Robinson, I think, is going to benefit the most from this. Just because, I mean, he's kind of been puttering a little bit as of late, and I think this is kind of the situation he needed to really start start his playoff push for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely much better than the alternative, which was splitting carries with Carlos Hyde. So you got to feel a lot better about James Robinson than we felt even earlier in the week, where he was, I believe, in both of our circles of trust, but questionable.
He was in my circle of trust. It was the team surrounding him that was hurting my trust on him.
Exactly. I don't think anybody has anything against James Robinson's talent. Like, we know that that's there, but when he's on your fantasy team, unfortunately, you're not only putting trust in him when you're starting him, but you're putting trust in the Jacksonville Jaguars, which has often been just a risky decision, to say the least. So Jacksonville without Urban Meyer, we feel a little bit better, at least about James Robinson's potential to kind of get the bulk of the work that he deserves. Not feeling necessarily that much better about the team in general, but like we said, Houston seems like as attractive of a matchup as any.
Right.
Do want to say we are here mainly to take your questions today. Any kind of start-sit questions, any kind of just fantasy questions for the playoffs, anything you want to ask us. So definitely put your questions in the chat and we will get to some stuff as the questions roll in. And the first thing that we have, tight end question. Gerald Everett, Tyler Conklin, or Brevin Jordan?
I mean, it's going to be Tyler Conklin for me. So
I feel like that's a pretty easy one.
Mm-hmm.
I would go Conklin.
Yeah.
I know that was a rough one last game, and that honestly makes me probably feel better about it. Like, I think that they're going to get him more involved because of him not being as involved last week.
Right.
Fant or Brevin Jordan? I'm not necessarily big on the Brevin Jordan hype train.
I'm not sure where this is like kind of coming from, but I guess Noah Fant, right?
Yeah, I don't feel great about either.
I don't feel great about either of those guys, to be honest. Maybe I missed something. Maybe like the head coach came out and said Brevin Jordan's going to get 10 targets this game against Jacksonville, but like
He's projected for 6'8". He got 7 targets last week. I mean, 4 catches for 26 yards and a touchdown. Got him at 12.6. Yeah, I mean,
the only time this guy has got double digits for you is when he gets a touchdown.
I mean, that's the tight end position, though.
It is, but it isn't when you're on a bad team, though. Like when you have no one else out there. I mean, you're kind of expected to get like, if you're going to start a guy who is not a guaranteed touchdown, then you want a guy who's going to get like 6+ targets in a game, week in, week out, and not all of them are going to be 5 yards downfield. So I'm not going with Jordan. Fant against Cincinnati, kind of intriguing. I mean, I kind of like that one more.
I think there's
better options out
than
there,
either
but
of
if
these
this
guys,
is
like that are available in the majority of leagues. I said I had Fant in I think multiple leagues, and I said on our show, when was it, 2 weeks ago, to drop Noah Fant. I am standing by that, and I would try to pick up somebody else if I could. Like, I probably feel better about David Njoku than I feel about Noah Fant. I suppose that there are some question marks around that game that may worry some people.
right.
And we should probably talk about that following this conversation. But James O'Shaughnessy, I feel better about than Noah Fant at this point. So there's some options out there that I think I would rather go with.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to go with one of those guys. A lot of people are available in a lot more leagues. I don't hate James O'Shaughnessy this week just because we don't know how this new coaching game plan is going to look yet. Like we're not sure how it's going to be. Urban did literally just get fired this week, so it could be a lot of ground and pound, which wouldn't help James O'Shaughnessy literally at all. Or it could be some ground and pound mixed in with 5-yard throws to try to move the ball, get the offense kind of moving together in a new game plan. We have no idea, so it's kind of up in the air for James O'Shaughnessy. It's not like we have anything to go off of for how this team is going to operate without Urban Meyers.
Yeah. I mean, I just like the target volume that he gets. Like, it seems like that he's very consistent in his role. Like, you know what you're going to get from him. Another person to look at would be Adam Troutman, who's played pretty well of late. He has 8+ in his last 3. And is just kind of like getting targets in that Taysom Hill-led offense. He has 7, 6, and 8 in the last 3. So I would say that he's somebody that I'm also intrigued by that is out there in 97% of leagues. So
Troutman hasn't played with.
Wait, he hasn't? What am I talking about then?
I don't know, but he's been out because he missed a Buffalo, Dallas, and Jets game. So
then I'm just talking like an idiot.
You talked out of your booty cheeks on that one. But
it happens.
It does happen.
Fairly, maybe even too often, some would say.
It's okay. I had to check it because I was
was trending up, I would say, in this offense before. And who else is there really to throw the ball to? So,
I mean, he was getting some looks back in week, 8 through 11 before he got injured. It was 6, 7, 6, 8. So, I mean, he was getting looks, but again, that was with a whole different quarterback back there, a quarterback who doesn't take off and run, and a guy who would throw checkdowns to the tight end. I mean, against Tampa Bay, he had 6 targets. He had 2 catches for 4 yards. So, I mean, not exactly the deep threat option. And if you're not a deep threat option, Taysom Hill has a tendency to overlook you and just run the ball himself. He said, I can run 5 yards or throw the ball 5 yards. But this is going to be, I think, the first time he's going to be back with Taysom Hill at the reins. So this could be interesting to see. I just don't have high hopes for anyone in that offense.
Taysom Hill did throw 2 passes in both the Atlanta and Tennessee game. I don't know if those were to Adam Troutman, but for the sake of my argument, I would like to think so.
I mean, I'll let you think it, I guess.
Okay.
I don't think it was, though, because he had 33 yards.
We don't need to look into it any further.
I just did. He had 33 yards in Atlanta and then 11 in the Tennessee game.
Yeah.
And if he only threw 2 passes each, then he wouldn't have been able to hit Troutman on either of
he
those.
contributed to it. He contributed to Troutman's success, and that's all that he has to do this week. Other news around the league: Tony Pollard, foot expected to play versus the Giants. I think that this is like one of the more frustrating decisions in fantasy right now. It's kind of odd to think of the top running backs that were selected in August and maybe even get people rethinking a little bit of what their draft strategy is going to be moving forward with how those running backs have played out. CMC out for the year. Derrick Henry out for the year. Kamara missed some good amount of time, but he's kind of looking like the Kamara of old. And who's the one that I'm forgetting?
Dalvin,
who's dealt with some injuries of his
Dalvin's
own.
playing. He's been in. I mean, Saquon got hurt. Then he also plays
Saquon's just been a little bit disappointing this year in general too.
Zeke's been banged up.
And then Zeke.
Yeah.
Zeke's been the one that's like, he's always been on the field. Well, I shouldn't say always been on the field, but he's never missed time or missed a game. But like, he's kind of in this middle ground where you don't feel great about, like, you don't feel confident in playing him, but you're kind of like playing him just hoping that he falls in the end zone at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he has his best week so far has been 26.6 fantasy points back in week 3, and he had 2 touchdowns that game. So, 14 points besides those touchdowns. He really hasn't been all that explosive, and Jonathan Taylor has, I think, been the only guy inside the top 7 or 8 running backs selected first that has been healthy and dominating this year throughout the whole season. Everyone else has missed time and or just been lackluster in the case of Elliott. They're playing the Giants today, which, again, have absolutely nothing on that team to offer. So Tony Pollard could be a good play. I think he's going to get a little bit more playing time because it should be a wash. Cowboys should easily win this game, so it should just be a lot of garbage time touches for Pollard, and that should just really boost some fancy numbers for him.
Well, the interesting thing about it now with Tony Pollard hurt, foot injury, is they're not expected to play him a ton. He's expected to kind of like get a handful of snaps, but they're still expecting Corey Clement to factor into this backfield too. So I think this is one of those situations where you just pick a guy, not Corey Clement, but pick your Zeke or Pollard, wherever you want to go with that. And you kind of just have to like go with it. You kind of got to go with your heart and just like trust it, and then not look back and be like, okay, like I made my decision. This is what I'm going to do. And it could very well backfire on me. It could be the other guy, but I made my choice.
Right. I mean, Corey Clement, we've talked about this offensive line numerous times. One of the best, if not the best, running offensive lines in the league. Corey Clement, 22 attempts, 64 yards, kind of pitiful.
Well, they kind of slowed down. I do want to make that a point too, because they've had a lot of injuries up front as well. Guys coming in and out, and just not as much consistency up there as you would expect from the prime Dallas offensive line days.
The last 3 for Pollard, he went 7 for 50, 10 for 36, and 7 for 71. Old man Zeke over here went 9 for 25, 13 for 45, 12 for 45. So they're getting like 4+ yards a carry. And
Zeke hasn't, I think that's the thing. Zeke hasn't gotten over 4 yards per carry since week 9. Which is,
you're right.
Which is like, I guess you can make an argument that that's Zeke. I don't know, but he hasn't helped himself. But I don't think that this offensive line has been as great as they've been billed to be in the past, or like even in the beginning of the year when Zeke was running well, when he was having those 100-yard games, or just eclipsing 50 yards, which hasn't happened
I
again
think
since week
I
9.
think Zeke might just be declining.
Do you
I think
think, like, that's the thing that's weird for me is he was running the ball well at the start of the year. So, like, I don't
mhm.
I obviously he doesn't have a crazy burst, or even much of a burst at all right now, but it's just interesting for me because he had a start of the year that was awesome. Like, it was efficient, not just, like, fantasy point driven, but he was efficient and being, I would say, the RB1 that people drafted him to be through the first 6 weeks of the year.
I'd say week 1 through 5, Zeke, he averaged 3 yards and he against Chargers 16 for 71, whatever that math is. Philly 17 for 95, Carolina 20 for 143, Giants 21 for 110, New England 17 for 69. So really, since week 6 on, he hasn't looked explosive, and I
Agree.
feel
I don't
like
think
that.
it's just him getting old, though. Like, I
I
don't think he
think,
got old
I,
in the middle of the season.
but that's kind of, I think that does mean you're getting old. I mean, you have the conditioning because you're healthy at the start of the season. You haven't been getting hit. You haven't been, you know, going through the rigorous like schedule that NFL players go through of having a game on Sunday, flying across the country, having a game on Thursday. Like he's in the start of the season, you look a lot better, but then like midway through, 5 weeks in, stuff's happening, and I mean, I get it. Carolina and Giants aren't like tough defenses, but like
I mean, Carolina was at the time. Carolina was stopping
what
everybody until that game.
week 4? I mean, yeah. I mean, week 4 was when Carolina let Zeke run all over him.
Yeah, well, no, I'm saying before that, Carolina was, like, hyped up as this monstrous defense. They were number 1 against the rush and the pass.
Yeah, I mean, they played the Jets, New Orleans, and Houston, so that does
Yeah,
also help the
I'm
schedule.
just telling you that they were.
I'm telling you who they played.
But I think there are, like, a lot of factors going on there
I
that
just think that people have to admit, like, running backs have a time clock, and it's quicker than other positions normally. I mean, quarterbacks can play as Big Ben's showing you, Big Ben's not explosive in the slightest, but he's close to hitting 75 years old and still out there. When they have a young Mason Rudolph who's just as accurate and more mobile. So
you can't keep talking up Mason Rudolph on this show.
I'm going to talk.
I think that's
I,
the thing that I
you
maybe
get so
might have the
upset with
biggest
it.
gripe with you about.
You get so upset with Mason Rudolph, but
Mason
when you
Rudolph is just not very good.
he is what
I
is
get
it?
I get that you're saying Big Ben is also not very good at the moment, but I just think bring anybody else up other than Mason Rudolph.
But why would I bring anyone else up
Because
if they're not on the
the only
team
thing the
though?
man's known for is getting hit in the head with a helmet,
Right?
which is not what you wanna be known for, I would say, like, in general. I suppose it's better than being known as the guy who hit somebody else with a helmet, but it's not what you wanna be known for when you're trying to be a good quarterback.
I mean, his stats are comparable to Big Ben. He's younger, he is more explosive, and
I don't know he's more ex I don't know what that means,
he has a
explosive.
higher ability to move quickly, while Big Ben has a higher chance to sit there and let people come and hit him because he can't run out of the pocket like Mason Rudolph can.
I think just in any argument for Mason Rudolph, he also went to Oklahoma State, so I'm fairly biased in this, but any argument for Mason Rudolph is one that I cannot agree with. Gibson or Zeke? That's an interesting call. Let me look at the Gibson matchup real quick.
Gibson's playing Philly, so give me Gibson just because we know he will more than likely be the guy back there. J.D. McKissick is not comparable to Tony Pollard.
J.D. McKissick also was not seen in pregame warmups, I believe. I might be making that up.
They play on Tuesday, so I don't know if we saw pregame warmups.
Was not seen. Sorry, was not seen in practice drills today.
Boom, even better. Gibson all the way. Can't go wrong there.
Yeah, I mean, they got behind pretty early in that Dallas game, even though Dallas didn't end up scoring that much. I think it was like a 17-point deficit, but yeah, I'd probably go with Gibson. That he's just a safer bet to get the bulk of the touches, especially with J.D. McKissick out as well.
And they're playing Philly, so
J-Rob or Gallup. J-Rob easily.
James Robinson, baby, all day, every day.
I don't mind Michael Gallup, but James Robinson is the easy choice there. Speaking of James Robinson, DeAndre Hopkins is expected to be out until the NFC Championship or Super Bowl. I think this DeAndre Hopkins stuff like that, number one, sucks that he is going to miss time. He's a good receiver. He's fun to watch. But it's also not necessarily the best for people who just thought that they were going to get DeAndre Hopkins back for the playoffs and now are scrambling without probably one of your top wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
My question is there anybody in Arizona that can not necessarily live up to what you expect from DeAndre Hopkins, but fill the void at least a little bit?
I mean, last 3 games for DeAndre Hopkins, 8.6, 11.2, 10.4. Yeah, 11.6, he had a touchdown. So, yeah, you can find a lot of guys who are going to get you scrape by with double-digit points. I mean, Christian Kirk, he kind of had a struggle for 2 weeks in a row here, but then against the Rams, hit the big plays when he needed to and got you double digits. Big play in a bottle. I like AJ Green, but against Detroit, I don't think I like any of these guys just for the week. So I think if you're going to try to fill the DeAndre Hopkins void for this week, look elsewhere because they're playing Detroit. Detroit does have close games, but the Cardinals are one of, if not the best team in football right now. Even without DeAndre Hopkins, they were still able to just cruise through some teams. So I don't expect it to be a close one, so I would stay away from their wide receiver weapons this week. But moving forward, I mean, Christian Kirk, AJ Green are the 2 guys I'm really looking after. Rondale Moore in deeper leagues, I mean, he just doesn't.
The fall of Rondale
Moore.
Moore.
He doesn't get the
been a weird one. I mean, he had a great start to the year. He was getting like a good amount of targets too, like consistently. And
yeah, I mean, the first 2 weeks he got 5 targets, 8 targets, and then Jacksonville he got 2, Rams got 3, San Francisco 6, Cleveland he got 4.
After those 2 weeks, he was looking like. I mean, I remember
he looked really
talking
good
about him on waivers.
Yeah, he looked really good for the first 2 weeks of the season, and then I think has poised maybe 1 or 2 double-digit weeks since then. So Rondale Moore has been like a tough guy because like you never know if he is going to get a shot. So
yeah, it's weird, and 949 kind of said this in the chat as well. They just use him very gadgety, and they don't. Like there was one game, I forget what week it was. It might have been that Seattle game where he had 11 catches for 51 yards, and I think his air yard total was -10 yards. So like this is going to be very difficult for me to explain, but
They threw the ball
basically,
behind the line of scrimmage to him, and then he
yes,
took off
it
for
was
the yard.
basically it was thrown behind the line of scrimmage every time. So that it's just wild the way that they use him. I would say AJ Green is my favorite bet to kind of take over, like not take over, but just have the biggest, most consistent role in this offense. I think that I do think that Christian Kirk is going to have some weeks where you're like very happy and okay or happy with starting him, but I just think some of the consistency is more likely to be there for AJ Green, and also like the touchdowns. I mean, he doesn't have a ton of touchdowns on the year, but just the type of receiver he is, like a big body guy. A lot of those touchdowns right now are going to James Conner. So I think he's probably the safest bet, maybe in the NFL, to score a touchdown outside of Jonathan Taylor, arguably. But yeah, I would think I would lean AJ Green as the safest option in this offense, and Zach Ertz obviously as well.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of weapons out there. It's just trying to figure out who is going to get the touchdown on the week to really push it over everyone else.
Great. I'm going to try to pull up some who's in and who's out guys, like active, inactives for the 1:00 window. We also can talk a little bit about, obviously with COVID, a lot of the games are getting moved around. There is going to be
Tuesday games.
Yes, now there are Tuesday games. That's something that I remember that last year, and it was all like, obviously the reason that it has to happen isn't awesome, but
Right.
to get football for an extra day is quite enjoyable. And didn't they play it at like a weird time too? Like they played at like
It is a 7:00 game on Tuesday.
we have a 5:00 Monday game.
Yeah, 5:00 on Monday, 7:00 on Tuesday.
It's just going to be so bad for my productivity to have this much football. I do like it, but I also appreciate it being condensed into a Sunday thing, because then I only waste one day doing nothing.
Right.
Where now it is likely going to
3 days in a
spread.
row. Yeah, 3 days in a row where you're not gonna do anything at all. It's
bad. We have a show on Tuesday.
It's also gonna make waivers really difficult because
Yeah, that is true. Do we do our waiver show on Tuesday?
I think we just
do the show. However,
However
if we can do waivers, then we can.
however the show happens is how we're gonna do it. No
Yeah.
ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Waivers this week, I think in most leagues, if you're worried about that or unsure of how that is going to work out, I think it's going to be on Wednesday. So basically, instead of Tuesday putting in your waiver claims, you will do so on Wednesday, and they will go through on Thursday. Let's get into some of the actives and inactives. We talked about James Conner. He is active.
Right.
DeAndre Hopkins, knee out for the rest of the year, can be dropped in most release. And then, hey, if AJ Green is out there, maybe pick him right up. Zach Ertz, hamstring is active. DJ Moore, hamstring is active. He's kind of in a weird situation because we don't know who's going to be throwing him the ball from play to play. The Panthers are going with the tandem quarterback fix, which I don't want to say doesn't typically work, but it's a new strategy.
I mean, I don't want to say it doesn't work. I'm just going to say that no Super Bowl has been won with this strategy. Is all I'm going to say. So there's always a first, but there's also like a set history of you want a really good quarterback. You don't want two garbage ones.
DeAndre Swift is out again.
Poor man.
That backfield, are you trying to I don't think you can trust Godwin. I think he fumbled twice. So, I mean, Craig Reynolds. Are you trusting Craig Reynolds?
I am not going to trust anyone with the name of Craig.
Craig Reynolds is like, I don't want to pick like name shame here, but Craig Reynolds is just a unique running back name.
It's very unique. I think I don't want to sound too grim here because I'm a really happy guy at all times, always, just how I am. But Detroit's playing the first or second best team in football, arguably Green Bay, Tampa Bay also with Arizona up
Indianapolis.
there. Indianapolis is nowhere in the top 10. But anyway.
Right. Well, we'll see at the end of the year.
Great. I would love to see them in the Super Bowl, but they won't be there for another 10 to 15 years along with my Vikings. But Jared Goff is not a masterful quarterback who can just make magic happen out of nothing. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I love his name. He was in my favorite name list. The Sun God himself. But sadly, the Sun God himself is not going to be enough to save this team. So, no, Craig Reynolds is no fault of his own. I mean, against Denver, he had 11 for 83. So, he does have the potential to have a good day. I just don't see it happening. I mean, they're going to have to throw an insane amount in this game to try to keep up. They're not going to be able to keep up. Arizona's going to win. But, they're going to have to throw because there's no point just running the ball for 2 yards and then punting and let Arizona go down and score another 7 points on you. It's not smart. Dan Campbell's a really smart coach, so he's going to try to throw the ball. So I don't love Craig Reynolds. I'd stay away from the Detroit backfield this week because it is playoff time. You don't have a position to waste on a hopeful guy who might get you double digits. You can go find someone a lot better who has a lot more upside.
Agreed. Going into TJ Hawkinson, also out, expected to miss the rest of the season. That is a big blow to many teams as well. There's probably teams that have TJ Hawkinson and DeAndre Hopkins, and that is very sad. Going into the playoffs, there's definitely a possibility that you could have that. Both of the Houston running backs are going to be active. Is that anything? I know that you love yourself a good sexy Rexy.
Sexy Rexy, as the name suggests, sexy man, sexy fancy option, always going to win leagues, just not this week. It's Jacksonville, new coaching staff. I expect Brandon Cooks to have the monster game here. He was sick, so they're going to be like, hey, listen, get out of your system now against Jacksonville. We're going to need you against the Chargers. And they're just going to look to try to feed him often and early. So if Sexy Rexy does get a lot of playing time, I think it's going to be garbage time. And I'm not expecting huge fancy numbers just because I don't think he might get in the end zone. But again, he's a low end play. He's not a guy who's I feel great about starting.
Also, we did have a question earlier about Brevin Jordan. He did miss practice on Friday. He is active, but he did miss practice. So they could limit him a bit in the game. We'll see how that plays out. I would just advise against Brevin Jordan, probably in general, at least for this week. If he comes out and proves something and proves that he can get consistent looks, then sure. But I just don't think we've gotten to that point yet. Carlos Hyde, we mentioned, is out, concussion. Yeah, James Robinson stock goes up much higher than it was earlier in the week.
Right.
Jalen Waddle not playing, COVID. Myles Gaskin and Salvin Ahmed were both activated off of the COVID list. So a lot of worries about that Miami backfield. I think they had a lot of cases and a little bit of ease there to say, okay, I have Gaskin back, and I don't necessarily have to worry about which one of these guys is going to get the work back there. Daniel Jones out. It's not really, well, I would say, looking good for him coming back anytime soon either. And Sterling Shepard is active with a calf injury. Kadarius Toney is not expected to play, and neither is John Ross. I'm probably staying away from all Giants options as long as Mike Glennon is the quarterback, which probably means the rest of the season. Besides
So
Saquon.
does that mean with Saquon or without Saquon?
Besides Saquon.
Oh, okay.
I'm not dropping Saquon or anything.
Saquon's in for a tough go of it here. I mean, this week's going to be the toughest one because then he's playing Philly and Chicago. Philly's run defense been looking worse, and Chicago is an equally pitiful team like the Giants. So this week is the only week I'm slightly worried for Saquon, just because Dallas is a really good defense against a run, but you're still starting them. But I'm with you. No one but Saquon from this team. Evan Ingram is a maybe for me, but it's like a low maybe if you're really strapped at tight end.
Yeah, I would have to be in a tough situation, but I agree with you there. Keep looking here. Ty Johnson is inactive, and that's just like team decision. Michael Carter coming back off of injured reserve. Ty Johnson kind of struggled last week, given a little bit of an opportunity with Coleman and Carter out. So Michael Carter coming back, I think, is an interesting storyline. Not much out there for the Jets. They have a lot of injuries, especially to their receiving core. Elijah Moore and Corey Davis, both, I think, on IR. So what is your expectation for him? Because coming off of IR right into playoff time, is he a guy that we're not having the expectation of RB1 carry you through the playoffs, but could he be a guy who comes back at the right time and gives you solid RB2 numbers to lead your team to a playoff run?
I mean, could he? Absolutely. I feel like a lot of people in this league have a lot of potential to do a lot of things. Do I confidently think Michael Carter is going to carry a struggling playoff team? No, I think that he could. He has upside. I mean, he got 32.2 point week with only one touchdown. I mean, like, that's an impressive feat in and of itself. So, I mean, he has the potential to do that and explode for you, but he also has the potential to get you 4 points, 3 points. Coming back off of IR after an ankle injury that kept him out for like 4 weeks, I just don't have all the faith in the world again for him. He's playing Miami, and then he's playing Jacksonville, and he's playing Tampa Bay. So, I mean, I feel better about him next week for sure against Jacksonville, just because I think 1 week on your ankle and like a real game decision or a real game is going to be more helpful. And I just don't have exorbitant amount of confidence that he's going to bolster me to a win this week.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's more realistic to consider him in that RB2 range and say, is he going to deliver you constant, like solid RB2 numbers, which I imagine would be like top 16 numbers? That would probably be a little bit more of the ceiling expectation for him of being a guy who really comes back at the right time and like takes care of his role. It's interesting because, well, Miami's a tough matchup. Jacksonville obviously is not as much. And then Tampa Bay, Tampa Bay's been like good against the run, and then they'll have instances where, well, I guess against running backs like Michael Carter that are pass catching backs, I believe they're like one of the top defenses as far as receiving yards allowed to opposing running backs. So he in PPR, I think, is a great, kind of like a great option looking into, I would say, more the next 2 weeks. But if you're throwing him out there now, like I had to make a decision between him and Clyde, and I think that he could outscore Clyde this week, and I started Clyde. So he's a guy that I would like to have. If I have him, I would not be upset about it. He's ranked at running back 33 this week on Fantasy Pros. I think that's wild. Behind guys like Chuba and Devin Singletary and Darrell Williams. So there's definitely concern. I think that Tevin Coleman could get involved.
Right.
I see that as probably the main reason that he is so low. I think Tevin Coleman will get involved, but I also trust just that Michael Carter is a better player and should be involved in the passing game a good amount. So
he's number 20 this week for ESPN leagues. Miami's top 10 in terms of like stopping the run, but he is a pass catching guy. It's just that he has a busted ankle. I mean,
does it?
I don't know.
He?
He was out. Well, yeah. For 4 weeks he's out. He's a 200-pound man, and now you expect him to like be able to cut and juke like he did before when he was fully healthy. So I just like tamper your.
I feel like there's examples where you could say people have, when they come back from an injury, the expectation is that you're going to be healthy. I think there's examples of both sides of the coin, but I don't know that we can automatically assume that he's going to be just hampered.
Saquon Barkley is a better athlete than Michael Carter. I think we both agree on that. And Saquon Barkley looked pretty pitiful in terms of like a robust fantasy week when he came back. Just is what it is. And Saquon is the better running back and the better receiving back than Michael Carter. Just like factual statement.
Yeah, but Alvin Kamara came back from a knee injury last week and then just racked up yards. Like I think there's examples.
Against the Jets.
I don't care who it's against. He had a busted knee. I think there's examples on both sides of the coin is what I'm trying to say.
One was against a good defense and one was against the Jets. You're right.
Okay, then Christian McCaffrey came back from his injury, played well sometimes. So I think that there's examples of both is what I'm trying to say. So I don't think automatically assuming that Carter's going to be banged up is necessarily accurate.
He missed 4 weeks with an ankle injury. And
missed
he's
3
coming
weeks,
back.
actually, but I don't think that's
Carter? I thought he missed 4.
But I think that there's an opportunity for him to be a solid RB2 the rest of the way. Do I trust it yet? No, because I don't trust the Jets. But I think that he's a guy that you probably didn't invest that much in. Some people in 10-team leagues might have picked him up during this period, which would be wild. Or you invested a low draft pick in him. So you have some other options out there. I would be interested to see how he plays today, to see if he's affected by it, and then figure it out. If Jacksonville is a very attractive matchup next week. Going with Sanders and Gaskin over Carter. Do you guys agree?
Absolutely.
Let me look over those. So Gaskin against the Jets, I would say yes.
Anyone versus the Jets is always a go. Yes. Sanders 2 weeks ago went 24 for 120 rushing yards against the Jets. 3 for 3 at the backfield for 22 yards. Miles Sanders running for 5 yards a carry. Playing Washington isn't the sexiest matchup, but it's definitely not a bad one. Michael Carter injured, Sanders healthy, go with Sanders.
Sanders is also coming off injury, I believe. He's been banged up.
He missed I mean, he had a bye week, but
and he was banged up going into the bye. I don't think that matters. I would still go
he
Sanders
was
and
banged up
Gaskin over
against.
Michael Carter. But
So
I'm
he
just
was
saying. I'm
banged
just
up
saying
over.
in reference to the last discussion.
Miles Sanders was banged up against the Jets, is what you're saying, and he still ran for 5 yards a carry. Then really go with Miles Sanders.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. Is I'm saying people can be good coming off of injury.
They can
be. It happens.
They can be. Are you gonna you want to die on the cross for Michael Carter, saying he's gonna be?
I'm not. I didn't say that. I said that I don't know if he's gonna. I don't know that we can say, oh, he's coming off an injury. He's going to be playing hurt. That's not necessarily how it works all the time. I don't think it necessarily means, oh, this guy's going to be downgraded because of that. I would go Sanders and Gaskin over Carter, especially this week, trying to see. I'm more worried about the coaching staff's just love for Tevin Coleman for some reason. So I would probably wait, see how that goes with Carter, and then hopefully things go well for him enough where you feel good about playing him against Jacksonville. I'm actually thinking, depending on how this goes, about playing him over Zeke against Jacksonville in one of my leagues. So, yeah. Zach Wilson has not been great this year as too much to help him out any.
No.
We are closing in on our final 10 minutes. So if you guys have any last minute questions about anything, I think the priority would be fantasy questions, but it doesn't even have to be fantasy. It could be whatever kind of questions that anyone has. I suppose I shouldn't say whatever questions because there are some limits. No, watching sports on the East Coast is terrible.
I mean, it's later, I guess. That's
I've never had a different experience, so I can't say that it is because I just haven't experienced much in other areas. I do feel like it has to be awesome to just wake up, roll over, turn TV on, and just have football going at 10 o'clock in the morning. That must be just a different experience that I feel like I would enjoy.
It would definitely be nice.
Let's look at some. I don't know. Trying to think of some other big storylines going into the weekend. We covered Urban Meyer. We covered, well, I guess off of the Urban Meyer thing, we only covered James Robinson. Does that affect any of your expectations for anyone else in Jacksonville?
With Urban Meyer?
Yes.
No. I don't have a lot of faith in the Jacksonville team. I mean, we talked about that with our circle of trust. Trevor Lawrence has not looked fantastic. 9 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 4 fumbles, literally 1-2 in terms of touchdown to turnover ratio, not in favor of the touchdowns. Just not great. Wide receiver weapons, I mean, they have guys who are nice off the field, great personalities. Marvin Jones, Laviska Shenault. They're just not translating onto the field. Not entirely their fault. Game plan and also lack of quarterback experience and adequacy back there. O-line kind of struggles. Defense almost dead last in the league, so not really helping them either. So, I mean, James Robinson is the only real guy I have a whole lot of trust in, just because despite all those other factors, he's kind of been able to, stay afloat here.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's affecting. I believe we talked about dropping Marvin Jones, and I don't think that changes too much. I would keep an eye out for him if he's like out there, I suppose, in like deeper leagues, and you want to kind of pick him up as like a speculative ad. I wouldn't
Right.
hate that,
If you
but I
think he's going
also
to get a
wouldn't be
touchdown,
mad if you didn't do that. What was that?
if you think he's going to get a touchdown, he's going to get you. I mean, the 3 games he has a touchdown, he got you 18.7, 17.5, and 23. So I mean, if you think he's going to get a touchdown, I mean, he got a touchdown against Houston. He got you 18.7 week 1. He's playing Houston this week. I mean, 18.7 fantasy points is pretty good uh, for wide receiver 2 flex option. So I mean, I don't hate it, but again, you can drop him. I understand why. You don't know how the new coaching staff is going to, or the new coach's game plan, sorry, is going to utilize or underutilize him. So I'm okay either way.
I'm pretty sure I hear a vacuum and a drill in my house.
Well, it's good to know that people are vacuuming
And drilling, apparently.
I mean, yeah, drill the holes.
Top
Here.
3 TV shows. This is a tough one. A lot of pressure.
Not really. This is easy W's.
Do yours start with W's?
No, I said easy W's, like easy wins. The Office, number 1. It's a classic. Just hilarious. Anyone can watch it, young, old, middle-aged, every age group, really. It's just phenomenal. The 100 is also a great show. You know, maybe a younger audience, not young as in like teenager, but just younger than like 50 would probably enjoy it. Not saying that 50-year-olds have no sense of humor or good taste in shows or music, but they don't. So like maybe they
You're
just
really
want
digging yourself into a hole with with our 50 and 50-year-old demographic.
Yeah, well, that stinks to be them. Those Office, the 100. There's, it's tough for the third one. I mean, there's like 2 shows that come to mind that could both be it. I gotta decide. I'll let you go with, some of your list here. Why?
I don't know. This is a pretty like secretive thing about myself. I try to keep this under wraps, but I don't really watch that much TV. I watch like YouTube, and that's about it. And sports.
That's fair.
So this is a tough call. One, well, these are in no particular order. I would say I think my ironic shows are probably up there. Like, I don't know that they're the best shows, but they're the shows that I enjoy the most. And one is definitely Bar Rescue. I love Bar Rescue. It's so funny. 2, and I'm going to get a lot of hate for this one, but I think it's a great choice. And I'm only like a little bit ashamed of it. Jersey Shore. Jersey Shore is a sick show. And
definitely have to be sick to watch Jersey Shore. So
I don't think you need to be sick.
Well, you said sick show, which would
I just appreciate what's an awesome. It's slang.
You appreciate just lack of
I appreciate
respect,
Jersey
decency.
and Italian culture, and I think that's like a melting pot of that. It's Jersey Shore.
I'll let you go with your last one because this is just.
And the last one. I'd probably say there's definitely a bunch that I'm leaving off that I'm like not even thinking about. My brain's not working. It's 12:30. I don't know why that matters, but midday blues, I suppose.
Yeah.
I would probably go with like The Office or Parks and Rec.
Okay. So my last one is it's between 3 shows: The Game of Thrones, Peaky Blinders, and MASH. MASH is an old TV show. Wouldn't fly in today's culture. So if you're really sensitive about things that are funny, like don't watch MASH. But it's really funny. It's a great show. I have to go Peaky Blinders, I think, 3rd. And then maybe MASH 4. And then Game of Thrones 5, just because at some point watching just countless people getting murdered gets a little bad,
Fair enough. Yeah, if I had to go a retro one, I would like to say, just on the record, I do enjoy a good episode of Frasier every now and then. Breaking Bad, Sopranos. I've never watched Sopranos. Sopranos seems to me like, I talked about the Jersey and Italian culture melting pot that Jersey Shore is. I feel like that's much like Sopranos. So I've never watched Sopranos, but I've watched Jersey Shore, and I think that's as close as it gets.
Breaking Bad's a good show.
Breaking Bad's a good one. I do. That's a funny. Before we get to,
I don't watch TV or movies with swords and shields. I mean, I don't enjoy watching, Better Call Saul. Why would I have to call someone? Why would I have to call another man to come do my job? I mean, I feel like that's a little beta, but hey, teach their own. Do you, boo-boo.
I like that strategy. Like, I will watch shows with swords and shields, but I can't knock somebody for using that as a way to. There's a lot of shows out there. You have to have a way to kind of like weed out the ones that you don't want to watch, and just saying sword shields no is kind of a cool. I do like that way of just ruling some stuff out. Njoku, Brevin Jordan, Everett. Sorry, I was getting my hair cut.
Pictures there doesn't count. So
yeah, we need proof that you were getting your hair cut, Jake.
I guess Njoku.
I don't believe you at all.
I mean, I don't know who this JK40 guy is.
I would go Njoku pretty easily.
Easy on that one.
And then just again, Fant or Brevin Jordan. Fant out of the two.
You can find better options.
We talked about Brevin Jordan actually didn't practice on Friday. He's active. He has a hand injury. As I think Cody would be happy to tell you, tight end, you have to catch the ball. And you do that with your hands.
Catch the ball.
Yeah.
You don't
have
get
to use your hands to catch the ball. Cody actually educated me on that. So I don't want to take the credit for that one. But yeah, there's some rumors swirling around that Pharaoh Brown might be getting some work. And if Pharaoh Brown scores a touchdown, I wouldn't want to be the guy that had Brevin Jordan. I wouldn't want to be the guy who had Pharaoh Brown, but I would probably go Fant in this case. But I think that there's better options out there in free agency too.
Yeah.
Or waivers or whatever you would like to call it. Dolphins or Cowboys defense?
We them boys. Actually, let me double check. I don't know if we them boys this week. It's Dolphins are playing the Jets, and Cowboys are playing the Giants with a backup quarterback. I mean, you can't really go wrong with either of these options this week.
That's kind of my take on it. You can't go wrong.
They're both going to do well. Personal choice: either we them boys or, swim fishy swim. Like, it's up to you.
Whatever you want to shout during the game.
Right.
I think that's what it comes down to. That is it for us today. Oh, was getting them all cut,
that's a little weird. I've never.
I suppose that's one style.
Yeah.
That's like a full buzz.
I've never been to a place that cuts toe hair, so I'm gonna have you drop the Addy. I'm gonna have to look this place up, figure out what happens. I mean, if you got every haircut, leads me to believe leg hair would be gone, arm hair, toe hair, fingernail hair, teeth hair. I really need to know where this place is. Drop the Addy, give them some love. If they did a good job,
If what Cody said is true, I would also be intrigued to know where it is. That is it for us today. Unless there are any last minute questions that roll in, we will be back on Tuesday to talk. I think the game that happens later that night, in addition to some waiver pickups and something else. What that something else is, we don't know yet. And we might actually need your help with that. I mean, we'll think of something if you don't help, but
we're really smart.
This is kind of like all about trying to help people win in their leagues, try to help all you guys who come and hang out with us. So let us know what you would like us to talk about in addition to waivers and the Tuesday game.
Right.
We will see y'all then. Good luck in your fantasy match-ups tonight or today. And yeah, we'll see you Tuesday.
See you then.